Apologize for the late delay, everyone. I'm Jim Kaleka. Really excited to have this opportunity to meet with you guys today, those of you joining live, as well as those of you who may be watching us later on in our archive, where you can always go in if you miss any of our webinars that we've had. We archive them in the system, and you can go back and watch them at your convenience. Tom, today our topic is creating selling story and presenting selling stories. Now, that might seem like a not such a big deal, but I would think that the fact that we're devoting a live event training to this should be enough of reason for people to understand that this is a really, really critical component in our whole philosophy on how we can become better at selling, right? And helping the retailers win. So the thing I remember probably most of the training that you came in when we were first, when you first came into our distributorship, was this particular process, to be able to create a selling story essentially on the fly, using information that we have at our disposal. It's not complicated. And yet, I don't know how many companies are really taking advantage of this. It's the kind of thing that I really believe with all my heart separates a professional approach versus just kind of winging it. You know, we talk about relationship selling. I don't know if you're going to get into that today, but if we do,
we will. Oh yeah.
Well, then I'm not going to go on in that. So for everyone, I mean, this is great, and I hope that you're able to see that as we go through, and even more important, share it and/or apply it in your day to day. So we'd like this to be interactive, depending upon the participants. We won't put anybody on the spot, but we like to have two-way interaction. And trust me, this is a relaxed environment. You can say your mind. If you disagree with us on something, we would love to be challenged, not for a reason to be, to have an argument, but more than anything to have a dialogue, because we think that is really the key to all of this, is having a dialogue and a collaboration. And if you can take that and extend that collaboration and that mindset into the street and with your retailers or your suppliers, then I think you're going to be ahead of the game. So with us also on the call is Tom's son, Sean Fox. He will be, hello, Sean, you're going to say hi? There you go. And he's Tom's middle son. Okay. I think there's some distinction. I think there's some distinction to that. I have no idea what that means versus first, second, favorite. I would think that if you're going to make any mention, Tom, of anything, it's your favorite son, but I don't want to try to, start a fight between him and his brother. So, Sean, if you want to introduce yourself any further than that, I think I did a great job introducing you.
I'm Sean Fox, live in Chicago, Illinois. I've been with Fox Sales Coaching for about the last 2 years now. And my primary responsibilities are in business development and account management. Excited to be here this morning on creating selling stories.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Okay. Well, listen, many of you, if you know Tom, but I don't know that many of you know that before he was in the beer business, that not only was he an accomplished tennis player in college, I mean, significant, really, really good.
All conference, baby, all conference.
There you go. And that's no small feat. But what I think is more impressive is the fact that he was actually a DJ in the college radio station that he was, he had a radio program. So I'm impressed with that more than anything else. And I'm real impressed with the everything else part of it. So without any further long-winded introduction, Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, this is T-Bone Tommy, high atop Griselli Tower here at John Carroll University, WUJC 88.7 on your FM dial.
Need I say more?
Now my favorite song, Can't Get Me No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everybody. Listen, Nick and Christian, certainly appreciate you jumping on. We're going to certainly cater to not only the two of you, but also to our archive audience that will be watching this, at their convenience. We know that much of the traffic comes from when people can watch later on. The timing doesn't always work. And I think, Sean, you've mentioned before that the the idea for next year will probably be changing it up and doing them maybe more in mid to late afternoon, just so we can accommodate folks' schedule that might be a little bit more convenient. But we really try to cater to these that if you couldn't watch it live, and there's benefit to watching them live, but you'll still get a lot out of it if you watch it in archive. So anyway, as Jim mentioned, Nick and Christian, would welcome your participation throughout, but not any command performance by any stretch at all. So great to have you here, Jim. And yeah, and I think just to play on what you said, I do think that if someone is all in on creating compelling selling stories, it would tell me a lot about their approach to their customers, that they, out of respect to the customer, that they're going to have something of value to sell, not just a quality product that we want to see you bring in, more of a, okay, bring it in for me, it's really good, versus no, there's going to be demand for this product, you're going to make money on this product, it's going to be productive, and I can prove it. The person who goes out of their way to do that, I mean, it tells me a lot about their professionalism. And the person who probably because they haven't thought about it, they are comfortable winging it. Unfortunately, that tells me a lot about their approach as well, that they would say, you know what, I don't have to prepare for this account because, they like me, and I can wing it. And while there's value, I don't have to really go out of my way to prove it. I can make the placement without it. That tells me a lot.
Definitely. And I think that, sadly, that, look, it's worked for people, right? I mean, if we go back, we both have been in the business for many, many years. And we can remember back in the day when it was just, stack it high and watch it fly. And,
yeah,
the retailers took a different approach. There were so many fewer SKUs. The big box retailers weren't afraid to put giant displays. I mean, I can remember walking into a Meijer store and having a 400 case display right as you walked in the door with a giant Clydesdale there. I mean, you just don't see any of that anymore. And I think that over time, the whole idea of making friends, which is great, we all like friends, really kind of took over in terms of that was the selling process. And we relied on, and I think the industry relied on heavily on advertising. You don't see that anymore. There wasn't social media. There wasn't this, changing of behaviors and taste profiles and everything else. So it really has required that we become more professional in our approach. And one of the things that you, I think, have brought to the industry and preaching is just what you said in terms of that care, that professional approach. I think we owe our clients, our customers, anybody we come in contact with, the courtesy and the professionalism of caring enough about their business, considering they're doing business with us, to show them how what we are trying to offer them can solve a problem for them or can help them sell more of our products. So we need to really, that needs to be what is the driving motivation behind this approach. We want to help the customer.
Yeah. And I think if people recognize the bigger picture of selling, that it is about helping the customer, all of the reasons why we want to sell to be productive for our own portfolio, our own agenda, it's, the minute someone recognizes that the way to win is to help your customer win, it'll change everything. And frankly, it will, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, not for our clients, but unfortunately, that'll stand out.
Yeah.
That alone will make them stand out. And the retailer as a rule just doesn't feel that love. So if we are focused on helping them, our selling efforts are going to be a lot easier. Just, it is that simple. So
Tom, when you say that the retailers aren't feeling the love, I mean, what do you base that on?
Well, I mean, we do conduct that research. So we have significant research on the perceptions of many of the nation's, largest and even the region's largest, geographically diverse around the country,
Mhm.
that they have expectations. I always say it this way: retailers expect this, they perceive they're getting this, and our firm has always been about trying to help close that gap.
And for those who are listening now, live or in the future, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, 20, really 21 years. The first year we did it just because we felt like we had to understand. We had an opinion that retailers felt underwhelmed
Right.
by the service. And I'm not talking about logistics or delivery.
Mhm.
They may have issues there. We don't ask about that. We don't teach operations or delivery training. I guess we could, but we just don't.
Right.
So we ask about things like objectivity, identifying opportunities, just overall, professional sales process, follow-up execution, just things that are kind of core fundamental stuff. And there has been a theme for 20 years of the industry does not meet expectations, and it's not changed. And I think what's happened is, as retailers become more sophisticated, their needs and expectations increase. Along the way, I do think the industry is getting better, but it's a moving target.
Yeah. And I really believe that the craft industry, when it exploded, and now you're kind of seeing a similar wave with the seltzers, it did force the people to become a little bit more effective at selling. And because it just, customers were coming into retailers asking for brands that they'd never even heard of before.
Right.
Well, now it's kind of gone full circle where the retailers become more sophisticated, as you know, and can rely on data that can tell them, what, we don't need every single SKU in the cold box and, creating out of stock for the fast mover things. There needs to be a little bit more thought put into it. And one last thing on that, Tom, is, I listened to the podcast that you were on with Harry Schumacher, and I don't know if anybody on this call is familiar with Harry, but he has an industry rag, and it's fantastic, where he really talks about different things that is happening within the industry. But a couple of days ago, he invited Tom on to talk about just this research, and it was fascinating to hear some of the results of that. So with that in mind, I want people to think about, if you just were thinking in your head before you walked into an account that they really are not necessarily considering you as providing the greatest service. I don't want to be a defeatist. I'm not trying to paint a negative picture. I'm just saying is be aware that maybe there's a gap between the way you believe you're providing service and help and the way the retailer perceives that same thing. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at like a big outcome of today is like this, people who are watching this are Fox Selling System clients, so they have access to the sell sheet generator. And just the idea of someone not only building one but then presenting one to a customer, it ought to be dramatic if they think about it, the difference between what maybe a normal selling approach and a sales pitch might sound like compared to the difference when you have a sell sheet. It probably in many cases would be dramatic. So it really shouldn't be that difficult for people to, as they get exposed to this, go just reflect and say, is my typical approach really adding value, or is that an opportunity? So this is our schedule here. This is going to be great, Jim. I do want to get into the difference between relationship selling and more value-based, empathy-based selling. Next month we get into facts. So today's going to be this foundation we're going to build around features and benefits and building these selling stories, and just this idea that we're going to align our features and benefits to the needs of the customers. We talk about what's the key to better selling. Our customers have needs. We call those needs Sprite. Our clients have portfolio benefits, oh, by the way, that we call Sprite. We match them up. So that foundation is going to be built today. We'll bolster that next month with facts. Then we'll handle objections in 2 months. And then we'll finish up with execution, which I'm really excited about that one, because that kind of ties everything together. So that's kind of the thing.
Cool.
So again, our objective, it's always about trying to influence our customers. No one has too much influence. So we want more influence. How are we going to do it? Well, I think if we can upgrade the content just get people focused on, hey, there's a way to make our content a little more compelling. And listen, we talk a lot about this idea of aligning features and benefits to needs, but even if you just pounded benefits, that's more professional than just what I would call a favor-based approach. So, just if people were more focused on something that's compelling, very likely the retailer is going to hear certain Sprite benefits. And, just because those are typically going to be things that they care about, more sales, more profit, a higher basket, more traffic, whatever, it's going to be more influential. So that's what we're trying to do. I do think the magic is aligning it to the needs. That was last month's program, but it's just about creating a value-based pitch, and that's what we're talking about. So, I do think it's important to speak to, and Nick and Christian, if you have an opinion on this, I would love to start with you. If you don't, then that's fine too. But this idea of relationship selling, and let me define relationship the way I see it. I'm not suggesting that we wouldn't want to have a great relationship personally, but I define someone who relies on relationship isn't worried about building a selling story. They're not worried about the customer's needs. They're just going to leverage that relationship and ask for favors because of the relationship, which to me, it doesn't really indicate that there's a great relationship there. I mean, that's a disrespectful relationship. But anyway, Nick and Christian, again, at any time, you're welcome to unmute. But Jim, I mean, if you were to ask, I think you and I, and if the question was, what are you in business for? I think we're in business to no longer tolerate relationship selling.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We've been together, working together for over 10 years, and have been in a lot of your training sessions, both when I was at the distributor level, and then since we've been working together live at live training events. And this is a topic that gets a little bit of pushback.
It does.
Because we have relied on it for so long. It's almost as though it's insulting to imply that relationship selling is a bad thing. And I don't think that that's at all what you're trying to say.
No.
That it's a bad thing. These relationships are critical. So I would ask the question to anybody who gave pushback on that, and it would be this. If you were just calling on a retailer for the first time ever, how do you expect to develop a good relationship? I mean, what are those things? What do you think people would say to that?
Well, they might say get to know them and their families and their sports affiliations, and we're all looking for that common ground, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. One of the things, Jim, you have heard me say, and I want to say this because I do think this is important. We talk about the movie Jerry Maguire, when Renee Zellweger says to Tom Cruise, "You had me at hello." So if we have such a great relationship, and let's be honest, a lot of distributors, and I know that there's a lot of change in the air around how distributors are going to be servicing retail accounts going forward, more reliance on e-commerce, maybe less reliance on the whole replenishment portion. I think there's a lot of energy around trying to get the retailers to use technology to take that function away from the distributor to give them more time to sell. Would be something that I think a lot of people that they believe that that's the future. So, who knows what this relationship might look like in 5 or 10 years. But when you and I were in the business, when I worked at the AV distributor that I worked at in Charlottesville, Virginia, we had a 65 share, and no one touched the service that we gave. As a matter of fact, on Fridays, I think I've told you this, Jim, I was the branch manager for a little branch, a 3-route branch, an hour and a half north of Charlottesville. And so we had a warehouse manager, an office manager, myself, a supervisor, three driver sales people. We were driver sales.
Right.
And I mean, if these guys said, hey, they wanted 10 cases of Natural Light suitcases, I only had 9. I'll be right there. I'd jump in my little Bronco and I'd drive to wherever, and I would be happy to drop it off. And we didn't think anything of it. And so, over time, those, that service advantage, and, and then the little territory that we had, like I competed against a Miller distributor in Winchester, a Miller distributor in Fredericksburg. They both came into my territory. So not only were we the hometown people, we were the only one that had it. We were the only one that were local.
Ah.
We were, it's a very country market.
Sure.
But in Culpeper and Warrenton, we were like 9 miles from Culpeper, like 8 miles from Warrenton. We were the hometown, and all of the I lived in Warrenton. Most of our employees lived in Culpeper. I mean, we were the hometown team. So we talk about this. You had me at hello, Renee Zellweger. There were many times like we would walk in, and it was really whatever the heck we wanted to do.
Sure.
We could do. So I'm not suggesting that if we have a great relationship and we're like, hey, I really want to talk to you about putting Labatt on draft. And they're like, okay, you can have it. Well, no, that wouldn't be fair. I don't think let me earn it. I mean, we're not talking about that.
No.
If we have them at hello, we take the business and we don't apologize for it.
Right.
So I think that's important to get out of the way, because if we have that kind of a relationship, we won't have that kind of a relationship very long if we're burning them with suggestions that have no value. So in our case, Jim, it was not maybe because we were great salespeople. The service we gave, we would do anything. On Fridays, Jim, I literally would wear a uniform, and I would jump in the Bush van, and I would have 7, 8, 9 accounts to go to, and I would have my little, I'd have my little. It wasn't a route book, but it was like an invoice pad. So I would, I was like a little hot shot guy.
Right.
And I was 25, 26 years old. I wasn't like I was all that well paid, but I was making a heck of a lot more money than the driver was. Right. So the point was, that was not a very effective way, but that's what we did. Yeah. And I know for a fact the guy who owned this company was killing it. So it wasn't as if that model wasn't profitable. It's just today you don't see distributors doing that anymore. There's a much more discipline around ordering enough product, and and I think they've trained retailers to a certain extent that we're not gonna go out on a hot shot on a Friday. We're just not gonna do it. You're gonna be out of stock, and so next time we're gonna learn from that and we're gonna order more product. So I don't know where these relationships are gonna go, because the service is probably not gonna be what it was.
Yeah.
So that means we got to be really good at selling, so that whatever we do sell sells through, because we had a value-based approach.
Yeah. And Tom, again, I could have given that same exact story. I mean, true, as could many, many, many people. That's how the business was built. I mean, this is a great business. And I've attended so many NBWA conventions, as have you, speaking at them and teaching at them. But it always, Craig gets up there and talks about what a great industry we're in, and we're selling beer. I mean, it's not like we're in selling toothpicks or widgets or whatever it might be. So we're selling a product that people like to have, and it can help, and it can provide profit. I mean, it really is a profit generating category for our retailers. So that's a great thing going in. But the thing is I have felt like, when I put myself in somebody else's shoes, and we talk about empathy all the time, and this isn't intended to be empathetic, talk about empathy. It's just that when I think about it, I want a sales rep. I'm not out when I'm trying to buy something looking for friends.
Right.
Right. I mean, great. Honestly. So if I like that the rep is whoever I'm dealing with is friendly, and that they're personable and have a good approach, but I want them to listen to me. I want them to understand what it is that I'm looking for, and to be able to provide that, and it to be what I was expecting. So anytime anybody on this call or watching it later can think of a time they went somewhere to buy something, and the experience they had was horrendous because they weren't listening to you, then, try to put that, ask yourself, well, how am I approaching my retailers? Is that what they think when I'm coming in? So Yeah.
Well,
It's,
I totally agree and align with what you're saying. I have two quick little stories. So before I worked for the AB distributor, I did work 1 year, or actually a couple of years at Beck's North America. And I was in Virginia, and I was the rep for the Charlottesville distributor. And when they wanted to move me back to Detroit, where I am now and where I was born and raised, I didn't really want to go. So the guy was like, if you don't want to go, I'll hire you because we'd love to have you work for us. And my dad was like, wait a minute, you're going to work for an AB distributor. Of course, my dad was in the industry 40 years. You're going to work for an AB distributor. They got a 65 share. You're going to be in the middle of the country making every mistake known to man, and no one's going to know about it. He goes, this is like you're going to get a master's degree in the beer industry. You got to take that job.
right.
But before I took that job, I remember, part of my territory was not only Virginia, but it was also Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., there's a lot of, Virginia was, especially out in the country where we were, these were friendly, they were good business people, but the culture of these businesses was very friendly. You would get to know them. In DC, it was nothing like that. DC may have been the hardest market I have ever sold in. All independent. These liquor store owners were ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the brands that we had was this, and I bet you've never even heard of this brand. Well, maybe you have, but Beck's was our primary full cal that would compete with Heineken and with Stella. Stella wasn't really around much then, but it was mostly Heineken as a European import. Heineken dominated, but Beck's was really popular. Mm-hmm. But then Heineken came out with Amstel Light.
Oh, yeah.
And meanwhile, Miller Lite, Bud Light, the light segment was starting to really explode. It wasn't number one yet. In the mid 80s, it was going like this, where full cal, Bud, MGD, Coors, they were falling. So Beck's was like, we got to come up with a light beer. So they came out with a beer. I'm curious if you've ever heard it. It was called Roland Light, Roland. Roland was like the patron saint of Bremen, where the Beck's brewery was in Bremen, Germany.
Got to say, I have not heard of Roland.
Yeah, and it tasted fine, and so we were all charged with getting distribution for Roland Light. So I'm working with one of our distributor sales reps. We're walking into a liquor store, and of course, I was young and not professional in any way. I'm talking to this liquor store owner, and I'm like, "Hey, we'd like you to bring in Roland Light. Put it next to Amstel Light." He goes, "Why should I do that?" And I go, you like Ray. Ray's the distributor sales rep. He goes, "Yeah, I like Ray." I go, "Yeah, so for that reason," he goes, "Let me explain something to you." And Jim, why I remember this, and yet it didn't have any indelible impression on change. I should have changed my approach like that minute. But the guy goes, "Let me tell you something. I like Ray, but Ray's not my friend. Yeah. And so I'm not going to put something in because of Ray.
Yeah.
I don't even know you. I'm meeting you now." And so he goes, "The answer is no, I'm not bringing it in." And I'm like dead in the water. I honestly, it may have been the worst sales call in the history of man. And I walk out, and guess what I do with the very next account? I do the same thing, but this guy maybe said yes. And listen, Jim, sometimes if you just ask,
yeah,
you're going to get, and so, we made some placements, but the brand ended up not doing well, and they ended up coming up with Beck's Light a few years later. But anyway, that was pathetic that I did that. But I don't understand why I didn't learn from that, but I didn't, it didn't change.
You probably just chalked it up to that guy's a
jerk. Yeah. Because you know what? You and I have talked about this. There were many times where that did work, and
yeah, exactly.
I'm not proud of that, but that's just,
So how can we help our people overcome that exact scenario?
Well, I think it's about coming up with selling stories, and so here's my quote. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I like it.
What do you like about it?
How long Joe and Shane collaborated on that quote?
I don't know. I think I want to buy it. No, I want to get that book.
Yeah, The storytelling edge,
But think of that first line, good stories surprise us.
right?
Why would someone who is considered to be a good storyteller, why would it surprise us?
Well, I think because they make us think and feel. I mean, that's second.
But why is that surprising?
Because doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So when it happens, when someone has a good story, it's like it's noticeable.
Yeah.
That's surprising. I mean, that's a fascinating first sentence. It surprises us.
Yeah.
And then we know the only way you can influence people is to get them to think.
Yeah.
And a good story does get us to think, and even maybe deeper than thinking, feeling. And it sticks in the mind and helps us remember. And so this notion of, hey, let's tell a story. And the story is basically, hey, you want more profit? Here's how we can help you make more profit. And let me walk you through it. And all of a sudden now that story aligns with what they want. That's going to be surprising. So I thought this was a really cool.
Couldn't agree more, Tom. I love it. You're fascinating at coming up with new, great quotes.
Well, Jim, I do what I would consider to be hours of research, looking up these things. And I'm kidding, it takes about 5 seconds on Google. Quotes on storytelling. Now, I probably had to go through 15 or 20 for one to resonate, but I'm like, I love this quote.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is when you see who it's attributed to, and then it creates an idea of maybe going and getting the book or whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's probably a lot more behind that. I have to just point out something.
Yeah.
I don't know why he does it. I could probably have a case for suing for slander or personality stealing, identity theft, whatever. But your son is just enthralled with my image, and he wants to use it and steals it. But I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, that was taken at least 7, maybe 8 years ago in my office.
Yeah.
At Westside Beer. And I look like I haven't aged a second.
You know what? You look good, but I like the live, Jimmy, over the action photo, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all the way from London.
All the way from London. Yeah. All right. So when we think about the process, Jim, and where selling story creation comes in, I did highlight these 3 portions of our selling process, the profits process. Obviously prepare you really, I don't think you can wing it and think you're going to have any element of value, whether it's value around the revenue generation or the profit generation of your suggestion, or even just stock features and benefits. I don't know many people who out of the top of their head can just wing it and think they're going to be good at it. So prep is key. I do think the good storytelling that would surprise us are those that are aligned, that story's aligned with what the customer wants. So part of it is step 3, but predominantly when we present, it's all about features and benefits, and again, aligning. So I thought it was 1, 3, and 4. We could probably have put it in for 5, thinking that you're going to get less objections if you do this really well. And we could have probably done 6 because we're probably going to close more sales if we do this really well. Mm-hmm. But I think this kind of captures it.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, you can take that right out of that chart and say, just focus on these things. And it's going to, if you didn't know about those other points, you would still be ahead of the game by focusing on those 3 elements.
Yeah. And so why my Washington, D.C. exposure didn't generate understanding way back when, it's hard for me to explain it other than just I wasn't a reflective guy as a youngster, very immature. But I remember the exposure, I didn't understand why that was pathetic. I do now. I absolutely do now. And I also have another quick story that when I was working for this distributor, we were the category or the set captains for a lot of accounts. And we had an account that we were working with, and they said, hey, we're going to let the Miller distributor do it. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, I just think that their ideas seem to be better than what you're doing. I'm noticing that you've got this Dewey Stevens all over the place. You've got all these different, Saratoga water. You've got, all these different things, and none of them, seltzer, none of these things are selling. So we're going to use that space for some other things. And I remember Jim saying, I probably told you this story, but I said, you can't take this away from me.
Oh my God.
And they're like, why? I go, well, if you do, I'm going to get fired.
Yeah, you did tell me this before.
I mean, not my proudest moment, but
Yeah.
but I'm hopeful that the people that watch, that this exposure will be game changing, that they do understand that, hey, maybe the way I'm doing it, has worked, and maybe it's fine, but it's not as good as what a more value-based approach would be. Because the good news, Jim, the minute someone answers the why, especially if they're Fox Selling System clients, the skills and expertise part can come pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's funny you mentioned that story. My son, Ferris, he just experienced something almost identical just a couple of weeks ago. He bought an amp for his guitar, a new amp. He bought it online. He'd done business with this account, and they shipped to him. He tried it out and decided he didn't really like it. So calling the store to tell him that he wanted to initiate a return. And his rep on the other end of the line said, "Oh man, you can't do that. I'm having a baby soon, my wife and I, and that's really gonna affect my commissions." And Ferris wanted to rip him a new one basically, but he decided not to. He just said, "Listen, I can understand that and all, but it really doesn't meet my needs." He didn't go into why it wasn't his problem.
He handled it. He took the high road.
He took the high road with him and said, "And by the way, I'm also gonna, I'm gonna buy one of these things." So they might be canceling each other out. And so, but here we are. I mean, can you believe that?
No. Well, I mean, yes.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, that's not that particular person's proudest moment. Can't be.
No. And I feel bad for him, but
yeah, no, I do too. And again, we're not going to talk about empathy very long. We've talked about it in the last webinar, but I did think it was appropriate that, again, the only reason why a compelling selling story would be surprising is if it included empathy. Right. So we just think that that's that important, that when we can't separate them too much, because they're not mutually exclusive, they're mutually inclusive. Mm-hmm. So we can't have surprising good selling stories that would surprise us if we don't make it about the person that we're talking to. And that's what empathy does. Exactly opposite of your example with Ferris. Exactly opposite. So got to be focused on their agenda. Our selling story has to focus on their selling agenda, which is also going to include our agenda, obviously, but it's going to be, the theme will be their agenda. That's surprising. That will be surprising.
Right.
Shouldn't be.
No.
22 years later,
we're still talking about it.
Still surprising. Yeah, yep. Still talking about it. And I'm always fascinated by this question of what percentage of the industry has had this epiphany? I don't know. I mean, we've always said it was a low percentage, and I kind of think it is, but I would actually love to know that. But Jim, how many times have we done demos? And if we talk to the sales, the person in charge of sales, whether it's the owner or the VP or whatever, and we always say, hey, listen, one of the reasons why a lot of our clients have gotten into the Fox Selling System is because they're trying to move their people from relationship-based selling to a more value-based approach. Do you think you and your teams ever are in a position where they might relationship sell and not necessarily do and Jim, how many of them, they kind of look at me, they go, well, of course they're relationship selling. That's what they're doing. We haven't given them any alternative.
Right.
So once people recognize, okay, listen, I want a great relationship, and if I get them at hello, I'm not going to apologize for it, but I'm really anticipating a little bit of a higher bar I'm going to need to hurdle in order to make the sale. We should always think that, hey, this particular customer, even if I know them, they're probably going to hold me to a higher standard.
Yeah,
I'm going to be prepared for that.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of rode the wave where there was starting to be a little bit of a switch from just the primary training that took place within a wholesaler was putting the new rep with whoever the best salesperson was,
right,
and let him go out and ride with them a couple days and observe, and then they ride with the merchandisers and they get on a truck and do that. But in terms of formal training, it just wasn't, just wasn't a part of the industry. I mean,
Right.
it truly wasn't. I think the big box, probably AB more than anything when they developed the wholesaler integrated learning and they could get a satellite and they were, wholesalers had exposure to some different content that they wouldn't have otherwise really sought out. But now, that requires it. We have to be better. We have to be professional.
Yeah. And I listen, I agree with you. It's not just on the AB side. When I left AB and went to work for Miller, and I mean Miller, I thought they did a great job, not a good job, a great job with category management training.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be where I am today had I not had that foundation. I mean, what we did yesterday with the key account leadership class, was 100% rooted from my development when I worked at Miller Brewing Company, in the 90s. Guess what? Those concepts still ring true today.
Sure.
But when I was at the AB wholesaler, we had no sales process. When I worked at Miller, we had no sales process. So it just wasn't something that companies valued. And I'm afraid that a lot of companies still, and I think it's for one reason, they haven't thought about it. Because when we get people to think about it, they're going to go, yeah, I really should provide some direction and some support around how they can get better at selling. And again, those who have jumped into the Fox selling system, that's a wonderful vehicle to allow that development to happen and the productivity to go along with it.
Yeah, agreed. Totally.
So again, when we think about selling stories, it is important to kind of think through the difference between features and benefits. And Jim, you and I have done this poll a bunch, and it is interesting that most, again, if you think about Sprite, and those of you who are familiar with it, that the only benefits on this slide are rings and sales.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of those bullet points are features. We always get, Jim, a bunch of people saying the last two are benefits.
Yeah.
Number one brand.
The advertising too. I mean,
And the advertising could be, yeah. So, everything that's listed here is good. Everything that's listed here is something we should say. But recognize, do our retailers need $30 million in advertising? No. They need to take advantage of the demand that's going to occur from someone spending $30 million. Because that then $30 million is going to be a way to drive more sales, to drive a higher ring, maybe make more money. Do retailers need a display rack?
No,
they really don't need it. What they need is the sales that come off it, the profit that comes off it. Do they need the highest IBU? They really don't need it. But what happens when they bring it in is that there's demand for something that has that, so they can take advantage of it by getting more sales or making more profit. So what I think is important here is this idea of what's the difference. And so while they're both important, you have no benefits if you don't have features. But the problem is most selling stories today, Jim, if you and I were a fly on the wall across the country and we could go to any store and just sit there and wait for the next salesperson to come in, I'm going to just kind of think about, this is my opinion, but maybe 50%, Jim, never mention a feature.
Yeah, I would say that's
50% just relationship sell. There's no features or benefits. The other 50% might mention features, and out of that 50% that mention features, maybe 5% mention benefits. And the problem is no one wants features. No one's got a KPI. How many display racks did you get this week? No one cares about the features. They're the means to an end. So when we hear people mention no features, that's an F-. If they mention just features, it's a C. They mention features and benefits, it's a B. They mention features and benefits and align those features and benefits back to the needs of the customers, A.
B+.
So features are everything that we have, and benefits are the impact. So again, I think most people are probably intimately familiar with the whole Sprite acronym. And again, we talked last meeting about, hey, when do you stop asking questions when you're trying to bring empathy into the conversation? Well, you stop asking questions when they tell you something that sounds like Sprite in terms of what they're looking for. And then in terms of today's class, now we want to have an inventory of features and benefits. So now, based on their needs, we can figure out which features and benefits to mention first that are going to be most compelling to support that need that they have. It sounds like a lot of moving parts. And for some salespeople, it might require some practice and experience to be able to, even if you've got your T-chart prepared, which we'll get into that in a second, to be able to, on the fly, based on the need, go, okay, I've practiced this before. When they want profit, I'm starting at price point. I'm starting at unit profit. I'm talking about trade up, because we just know that that's going to be the most compelling thing. If they want more sales, we're going to talk about maybe some of the point of sale, maybe the discount, maybe the growth trends. And then if they want a higher ring, we're going to go back to price point and speak to trade up. It really isn't rocket science. It's something that you and I, just because of the experience we've had on the fly, could really come up with the most important features first, because all the features aren't created equal. They're all going to be dependent upon what that need is.
Right.
So you look here, and this is one, Jim, I have a Bud Light display sell sheet, I think, on the next slide. But if you think about like what features and benefits we would have if we're trying to sell in a Bud Light display, well, we got all this advertising, we got point of sale, obviously light beers are, it's the number one brand, it's the number one segment, and oh, by the way, we have an NFL sponsorship. So there's a lot of great benefits here. We also can forecast the impact of saying, hey, we're doing 10 cases. The retail cost is $6.49. The retail price is $7.99. What would this look like? So again, those of our clients who have jumped into the sell sheet generator, we've got these, hey, we know that you're looking for more sales. We're looking for more traffic. How we're going to get there is a display and a promotion with Bud Light. We know the advertising is going to drive, it's going to hit the masses. It's going to get visible. That's going to drive more traffic. We got some great point of sale, going to catch everyone's attention. That's going to bring more sales and traffic. And, oh, by the way, Bud Light's the number one brand. That's going to drive more sales. Now, how much sales and profit? We would then be able to go through the pitch. So this is a really a good example of what that could look like. So now, Jim, what I want you to do, I want you to build one. And so you want me to stop sharing?
Sure.
You have this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. So bear with me, Tom, because in terms of, let me get rid of that. Okay. I have to get I had it up, but there we go. It's still there. Now,
so what, Jim, you'll share your screen. So then as you're going through, I assume that if Nick and Christian have any questions, they'll jump in. But for the rest of our archive audience, kind of just walk through, Jim. And this is not going to take you long, I assume.
No,
you can build this thing pretty quick.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yeah, I'm still seeing the presentation. I'm not seeing FSS.
Oh, no. I have that up, but I have to. What I'm not 100% sure. Are you wanting to see FSS and building the sell sheet?
Right? I wouldn't mind you building the Labatt sell sheet based on that T-chart.
Got it. Okay. So
I'm going to refill my water. I'll be right back.
Okay, you do that, and I'll have a new share. And let's go here. Okay, Nick and Christian, can you, either one of you, say you can see the Fox selling system screen? You see it? Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you. And have either of you been in and made any attempt to create a sell sheet?
Yeah, we both have.
Okay, cool. All right. So what I'm going to do here, and again, guys, I know it's not cider, and we're using examples that might not be exactly relevant to you, but the concept is the same. So what I'm going to do is go in here. Okay. I'm just going to give Tom a second to come back. How are things in Seattle, by the way?
hot. It's almost 100 degrees here today.
My God.
Yeah, it's not why I live here, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's unusual for Seattle to have that kind of heat, right? I mean, isn't it typically a little cooler than that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we should only be in like the 80s in August.
Man.
But the thing is like nobody has AC out here, so that's why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, well, there have been some tremendous storms that went through. Tom and I are in Michigan, Sean's in Chicago, and Midwest has gotten hit with. I mean, we're fortunate. We haven't had the kind of heat that the West has had, but we had some storms go through recently, a lot of power outage, and we're at that really high heat index with the humidity too. So it sucks.
You didn't lose power, did you, Jim?
No, I did. Did you?
Did not. Thank the Lord.
We're lucky. I mean, a lot of the town is the lines are buried, so we get a little bit fortunate with that. Okay, so Tom, they can see the Fox Selling System screen. You should be able to.
I can. Yep.
All right. So really, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and add, and this would be great because I don't know, Nick or Christian, did either of you work for a beer distributor before you were in the cider business?
I did.
Okay, was it like a large supplier by any chance?
Columbia.
Pretty big.
Okay. Yeah, that's real big. Okay, so here with the title, and just as a reminder, in case this has been confusing to some people, we're thinking that the title actually was the opening line. It's not. So I'm just going to say Labatt 12-pack cans as the title. So if I go back and I'm looking for that, it's going to show up as the title of the thing. The sell sheet. The published date is going to be today, Friday the 13th. Tom didn't know that. Any keyword?
Yeah, a little black cat. Don't go under a ladder.
Yeah, I'm not superstitious. Okay, account name, Tom. Let me see. I think we're going to go to the beer zone today. By the way, for those of you who have not, if you're listening to this later on a archive, adding account is simple. When you click on this, I'm going to do it, Tom, just for the benefit of anybody maybe watching later. All you have to do is put the account name. The grouping would just be who it's going to apply to. When I do it, I go to, I put demo main because that's our main place where we place products and or new accounts and stuff like that. But you could just put your company's name, the group that you're with. But you put that in, and you put the published date. That's all you have to put in. And when you go next, then the next thing you know, it's going to be, it's going to show up as one of the account names when you click on here. So adding an account is really, really easy. Does it meet the business objectives? We're going to say yeah. And we're also going to focus on the off-premise on this sell sheet. Hit next. We're looking to increase sales, and we're going to increase, let's do traffic, and we're going to do it with the display, and we're going to do it with the promotion because there is there's a coupon offering. So the brand we're going to work with. So for those of you who may have brand folder, there's one that the BF stands for brand folder, and it's just a little bit different process in terms of a little easier actually in adding, and it's all easy. Adding a new product in, but I've already gone in and our LE Learning Evolution, I've added Labatt. So the Labatt blue logo comes up here. Earlier this morning, I went in and I added a Labatt 12-pack can. Now we're going to work with package, our opening statement. What I'm going to add another one. Well, actually, this will work. Increase traffic and sales with this great promotion. And and what you could put in here is increase traffic and sales when you display Labatt. I mean, when you think about the process of the selling process, this is what we're calling the opening benefit statement. So if you're understanding that their need is sales or profit or rings or whatever, you could add that right in here. Increase rings, increase image, build image with whatever it is. And if you don't like whatever you have. You can put other, and you can go in here and type in whatever it might be. Again, those of you who are doing this, great. For some of you that this might be the first time seeing it, that's how you do it. So we're going to feature the features and benefits. Okay, Tom, so here's the sell sheet. Here's the T chart, right? We want to look at features and benefits. Anybody want to contribute a feature that is going to be?
Well, I would say let's go to that T chart and just pick those features.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let me see here. And those go to. Okay, so we're going to go to a new share. Okay, can you see the T chart?
Yep.
All right, so actually, you know what? I'm not sure how to do the split where you can see both. Oh, you can't see.
Right now, we can only see the T chart.
Right, and I want to be able to show both, and I'm not 100% sure how to do that.
Well, I would say just go back to if you can at least keep FSS on the screen we can see, you can just look at the T chart and populate into FSS. I want our audience, not only today, but on going through archive to see how you inserted those. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so the first one is $30 million in advertising. So the feature here is going to be advertising.
Yep.
Which will drive more traffic and sales, really, actually.
Yep, that's both. I like both. Yep.
So we're going to add that statement right here. And we're going to come back and we're going to say great point of sale, which will deliver more sales.
Okay.
I'm going to add the statement. And we're going to
just maybe put one more in there. Is there a sponsorship one in there?
What number one brand in the market? Sponsorship. Yeah, there is a sponsorship. Official beer. So it's the official beer of the NHL.
NHL, yeah.
And so that's going to help sales and traffic as well. So you add those, they're in here, boom. So now, whoops. Oh, I didn't shoot, I forgot. I went to opening statement. I'm gonna actually add a new one. Where are we? Okay, next. Okay, now here you have the opportunity to pick a template that's already been created, or you can do a blank template, or you can do you can select one from one of their customs. So we'll just do the beer background on this. And well, no, I don't like that background. So let's go with the, what background do we want? We can just go with the light blue background. Go. And then if you wanted to, you could pick the heading colors. And I'm going to go with blue for that. I'll use black. Here I'm going to go red. Checkbox red, table header color blue. Now here, for those of you who have not done it, you can pick from custom companies whatever you wanted to. If you've added the company into the assets, you can select it from here. Our default is the Fox selling system, so we're just going to leave that here right now. Here's another feature of these sell sheet builders that a lot of people may or may not know about or take advantage of. If you have a PDF, we talk about sell sheets typically being just data information, the style of the product, maybe the UPC code, taste profile, etc. If you have that information, you can absolutely, if it's on a PDF, you can add it into the system, and then it would also show up as the second sheet. So that's a really great feature, or even a third sheet if you wanted to. So anything you have in a PDF that you think would enhance the sell sheet, you can add it into the system, and then you can add it to your sell sheet. We don't have that, so we're just going to go. Now we get into the calculations. So number of units, what we're going to say is we're going to forecast 50 cases, which is 100 units. It's 50 cases. It's 100 units because it's 12 pack. Selling
Yep.
price, we're going to go with $16.99.
I think I have it different in there.
Oh, you do? Oh, excuse me, $12.99. Sorry about that, Thomas. I was just looking at a recent price for a 12 pack. I don't know where they were. That was coming from the cost at $10.50.
Yep.
What trade up? We're going to say increased profit, or what? It was sales, right?
It was sales. Yeah, I think you could say nothing wrong with saying trade up, though.
Yeah. Okay. Notes, we'll come back to notes. Notes, you could come in here and you could put a note. This was an incentive, or it would be something that you could later reflect on. You can come back into the system and you can rate how well it went. So if you close the deal, you give it 5 stars. Maybe you did it, but it was not 50 cases. It was, 40 cases, whatever it might be. You can put in the notes. And then here you will now see the sell sheet. Okay, so I'm going to finish. And now I can go down here. I can view it. Okay, can everybody see the sell sheet?
Yeah. Yep.
So, okay, Tom, what do you want to do now? Do you want to?
Well,
go-
I thought it would be kind of cool if and maybe I can do one and maybe you can do one.
Sure.
That if the retailer wanted more profit, because
Yeah.
that's what now we've got this sell sheet.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that the sales and traffic is irrelevant. We
Right.
don't, you wouldn't, a lot of these things you're going to be preparing in advance. So I just, you can have the sales one, but if it was profit, I think what I would say was, listen, I appreciate you sharing with me that you're trying to increase your profit. We've got a great idea that can help you increase profit. I want to get to some of the math really quick and then also speak to some of the support we're going to provide. But if you're trying to make more money, one of the things we're going to suggest is to put up a display and promote Labatt 12 packs. And the reason why I say that is because we know that if we put up a 50 case display, that is going to sell through within a couple of weeks, and cursor down a little bit. And based on our current cost, we're at $10.50 a unit. We're going to suggest that you sell it for $12.99. That's going to provide a unit profit of $2.49. You multiply that by 100, you're looking at nearly $250 of profit, which is exactly what you said you were looking for. And one of the things that's also going to help this thing turn, now you can go back up a little bit, Jim, would be some of the point of sale we're going to bring. We're going to bring some attractive point of sale, including a banner out front, which will help with more people, but also as a way to drive some velocity and help you make more money. I think you're aware that we are supporting the brand significantly in the marketplace. We are not only advertising the brand in terms of $30 million of media spend we're going to do, which is going to drive a ton of exposure, help bring in the people, help you make more money. And also, again, we're in Detroit, Michigan here. We're talking about the official beer of the NHL, which really resonates with the with your traffic and consumers who come in here, all around helping you make more money. What do you think? Can you see how this can help make more money? Again, exactly what you said you wanted. So does that sound like relationship selling, or does that sound like a more value-based approach?
I would pose that question to Nick and Christian. Actually.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
Value.
Hey, no, thank you. I would imagine if I went in and said, Jim, we've known each other a long time, and there's an incentive right now back at the warehouse for me to take a trip to Toronto to go to the Labatt Brewery, but I got to get up a 50 case display. Will you help me out put up a 50 case display?
Look, Tom, I like you, but I don't know how that helps me.
Right. I mean, that would be pathetic.
Yeah.
To make it about your trip versus their profit.
Yeah.
Now, if I turned it around, Jim, and said, okay, I want you to pitch the retailer, which will be me. You know that I'm looking for more sales. I'm thinking that sales pitch is going to sound a little different.
Oh, yeah,
You're going to get into the revenue. You're not going to worry about the unit profit. You're going to care more about the revenue. And the revenue story is actually more dramatic than the profit.
Sure. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
Going good.
Hey, you mentioned you were in a member guest outing last week. How did that work out for you?
A lot of fun. We didn't win, but we had a lot of fun. And now I'm back in the store and all of those issues that go with that. But thanks for asking. It was a blast. Absolute blast.
Hey, listen, I know you're busy. With last time we were in here and we've had talks about this, you mentioned you were really focused on increasing sales and getting some more traffic in here. And I'm assuming nothing has changed in that regard.
No, it's still all about bringing in more sales, more traffic. Yep.
Okay. Well, listen, that's great. I think I have a great idea that can help you increase your sales and your traffic. And what I'm going to recommend here is that you put up a display of Labatt 12-pack cans, and we're going to do a promotion with that. That's what my recommendation would be. And because I think both of those things are going to do exactly what you're looking for in terms of driving sales and traffic. First of all, Labatt has come out with a $30 million advertising campaign recently, and that's going to drive sales and traffic for you, which is what you're looking for. Additionally, if you see on the second sheet here, they've also come out with some great NFL point of sale material, which is going to help deliver more sales for you. And the reason is, in addition to this $30 million ad campaign, which will drive more sales and traffic for you, it is Labatt's the official beer of the NHL. And you know how that is around Detroit. That's going to really excite people and help deliver more sales and traffic. And if does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm wondering how much.
Okay, so listen, this is the best part about it. So I'm suggesting we put in, you bring in 100 cases, 50 cases, which is going to allow us to build a nice, attractive 100-case display. And we're great at bringing merchandisers in and helping you. That's going to also help generate some sales. But if you do that and you sell it at $12.99, your gross sales, once you sell through this, and I'm thinking based on your history, you should go through this in a couple of weeks, easy. It's going to generate $1,299 in gross revenue. I mean, if you want to break it down on a unit profit, it's $249, and gross profit on all of that is going to create $249. But if you're looking to increase your sales, which I know you are, then I think this is what this would be really good for you. What do you think?
Well, I think you have a chance for some bonus points. Jim, I'd like to do it, but I just don't have any space.
Tom, I can appreciate the fact that you don't have any space. As a matter of fact, looking around here, I can see you pretty much utilize, the space that you have a lot. And also earlier, before when you were dealing with the customer, I did a little walk around, and if you look back in the corner, right next to the cold box, there is a rack that can easily be turned. And right there, we could put a display right there, and if you put it in there, I think what it's going to do is it's going to help you drive that revenue in dollar sales that you're looking for. So what do you think?
I think I got to do it. 1300 is a lot of revenue.
Listen, if you don't do it, I might get fired. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
All right, so I gotta add. Excellent job. Jim, I assume that maybe at some point in your illustrious career, you may have been a relationship seller.
Oh, heck yes. I was an advocate of the, hey, listen, can you do me a favor? Hey, can I ask you a question? Hey, can you do me a favor? I mean, if because it seemed like the nice thing to do. It seemed like, hey, asking somebody to do you a favor and helping you, the philosophy around that is that people want to be helpful. That's the mentality. Hey, if you ask somebody to help you, unless they're a jerk, they're not going to help you. But that doesn't fly. If you need help changing your tire, different thing. You need help moving, I'm out of here.
Hey, wait a minute. Come on over. We'll have a little packing party.
Moving and painting.
But so, Jim, when you got like your epiphany,
mm-hmm.
I mean, at what point was it no longer uncomfortable that you were like, okay, I get it, and it's not that hard. I mean, I've always said, hey, you practice something 5 times, you're probably going to be able to execute. Was that the case for you?
Well, Tom, I think that, and I mean this with some humility. I sold door to door for 10 years, cold
Right.
calling, straight commission. So
Right.
it was run and gun. Don't waste time with the no. It was not anything that was refined. When I got into the beer business, I was exposed to different training through Anheuser-Busch's training program. And the owner of the company was generous enough to send me to every seminar that they offered. I mean,
Yeah.
literally. So over the course of my career, I've developed a lot more confidence. And when it got to the point where you came in, I had an idea. It was really kind of simple for me to adopt this because it made sense. I mean, it clicked. And I think it can for a lot of people. I didn't do this presentation. This was made up this morning. I didn't know what features and benefits you had on here.
Right.
It's the comfort level.
But you could navigate it flawlessly.
Because of the comfort level with understanding the process. And that's it. And the other thing I would say to people is that it is the reason you might be uncomfortable with it is because you haven't practiced it.
Yeah.
No other reason, because we want you to say it in your language, in your style, the way you speak. That's going to be a lot more believable, and you'll be more comfortable when the retailer will appreciate it too. So
just Jim, first of all, this is great. I love that you were able to show people how to build the sell sheet, but more importantly, building it is not that hard. Presenting it isn't really hard, but it's going to require some prep and rehearsal. But what I really thought was cool that we could show how the pitch is obviously going to sound different if the need was profit or the need is sales. And if we'd said rings, we could have easily, if we would have known that, we could have easily included a feature and benefit in the upper right-hand corner that would have included a comment on the price point on how that could increase rings over something that's less expensive. The point is, I just think that once people kind of buy into this, they answer that why question after the exposure, that we're not talking, there's no capability issue here. No one's incapable of this.
Right.
Everyone's capable. It's just a matter of buying in. And then with the support you get from the Fox selling system, it's right in front of you. Yeah. Literally right in front of you.
Yeah, it's scripted. At that point, you have a script. And Tom,
but it didn't sound scripted. When you presented it, it didn't sound scripted.
And that's because, Tom, you're dealing with a pro here.
When you're good, you're good. And you just don't apologize for that.
But I didn't know you were going to flip the benefit and focus on there, and that, which just gave me a great idea. When we're doing these, I can almost think in a class and in the future, if we get into any kind of a role play scenario, we can build a sell sheet that has multiple sprite features. Benefits.
Yeah.
And then we can, as we go through and we let different people role play, they can focus using the same sell sheet, using different features and benefits. It would be really easy to do. The other thing is, for those of you watching at a later date and or now, is say Tom didn't like the idea of the pricing, it would be so easy just to go back in and edit this. You can duplicate it and edit it and just say he wanted to say, you know what, I like that, but I want to go with $13.99 instead of $12.99.
Ooh, a little less profit. Now they're going to sell it in a week.
No, I think that was a cost. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back.
No, that one, I think, that's fine.
We increased it.
You're making more money.
Yeah, we're going to make more money. So it's that simple.
You selfish retailer, you.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
now they make an extra $100.
Yeah, look at that, $100 increase by just changing that. And that's how simple it is. You finish it and
presto changeo.
Yeah, so.
Way to go, Jim.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this. but I'm going to leave it open in case anybody wants to. There we go.
So, hey, Nick and Christian, just for your own benefit, any comments, any questions? What do you any takeaways from today? Anything come to mind?
No, that was good. Like I said, we've been starting to use the sell sheets. I put all of our like images and everything in there, and we've been
Fantastic.
with it.
Good.
So
That's working?
yeah.
Outstanding.
A question. What is brand folder?
Okay, brand folder is a digital image asset management tool. And if you Google brand folder, it's a company and you can subscribe to it, and it allows you to upload all of your images into one location. So if you have people outside the market and they want easy access to that, then you can provide it that way. And it just creates if you've already added the assets that you have and you're comfortable with it into the system, the way you've been doing it, that works. But if you saw a need for more people to be able to access it easily, brand folder might work for you. It's a subscription that you have to pay for.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good stuff. Thanks, Nick. Well, listen, we really appreciate everyone who's going to be watching this, and we hope you take away this really simple mindset of thinking that relationship selling is just not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it. That we really need to take our games to the next level. And the really good news is it's very doable, and we're all capable of it. And if they're watching this, then they're all Fox Selling System clients. The support that your company has provided you would make it a sin if someone kept relationship selling. And I say that a sin. People go, wait, what do you mean by that? Well, that's just something my mom would say. And so I just thought that that's what I should say. But it would be a bummer. It would be a shame. It would be bad. It would be irresponsible if someone didn't take the leap into a professional approach because of the support you're given. And now that you've all been exposed to this, more influential approach, which is a more value-based selling story, which will be surprising, and I'm bummed that it's a surprise, but I think that's still where we're at, Jim. With that kind of opportunity still exists. And I think with, we talked about the whole e-commerce and where the industry is going to go. We're going to, if people aren't good at selling in the new realm with e-commerce, they're not going to have a role with the company, with whether a supplier or a distributor. You won't have a role. Because now that there's more time, now there's going to be a higher expectation. We've taken all this off of you. So now we have an expectation that you're going to be more influential. You have more time. Right?
Right. Tom, they say you crawl before you walk. And I think for those people who this is kind of new for them in terms of exposure to the process, you do have to do some crawling, and that comes from role playing. And I just want to throw it out there to anybody listening, whether again now or in the future, if at any time you're having any kind of struggle with this, or it's just not clicking, or you just like some more demonstration, feel free to reach out, because I'm happy to jump on a Zoom call with you and your team, or you by yourself, and kind of walk through this. If you want to do some role playing, can help you with that. I mean,
the key to getting better. It's the key to getting better. Yeah,
we really want you to be successful, and your success means our success. And so we look forward, we welcome that. And it will help. I was thinking this morning, just think if every sales rep did walk in and they had a selling story with them every time they walked into an account. It could be just one monthly business objective. It could be one new product rollout. It could be it doesn't have to be every single brand.
No, it couldn't be. But for your top 2 or 3 initiatives,
yeah.
I mean, you're really, but then that's what they get paid. I mean, that's any additional compensation, any variable comp comes from this notion that you have to sell it in. Well, let's do it the right way.
Yeah. When they come back in with the success story, the confidence that it's going to build is tremendous. And then it will become like, old hat. I mean, it's just going to be a comfort
I
level.
agree.
So anyway.
Well, I love Jim. This whole week, all three have been right at 90 minutes. It's been great. Let's let Nick and Christian go out there and relationship sell. I mean, not relationship. I mean, value-based sell, and we'll go from there.
Hey guys, do you have any questions or anything before we sign off?
No, just a big thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah, this is certainly more and more exposure that I get to seeing those sales sheets being built, and it's beneficial. So no, just a big thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Christian. Yeah,
for
it's
the
great.
feedback.
So good stuff, Jim. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
You too, Tom.
And
You know that they're dealing with 100-degree.
I heard that. I heard that. That's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
So anyways, try to survive the heat wave and
Cool down with some hot selling techniques.
Symbol backwards.
I'm gonna sit in front of my window unit and build sales sheets. That's what I'm
There you
doing.
go.
Yeah.
Hey, get the fan.
Tom,
Get that fan going.
do you want to sign off in your radio voice?
Yes. So this is T-Bone Tommy live coming at you. We've enjoyed today's program. We're going to see you next week on Profit Sales Process webinars, along with Jim Kaleka. I'm Tom Fox. So long, everybody.
So long, Dan. We're going to edit that out. Okay.
Edit that out.
Bye.